Welcome back to Mystery Woman Knowledge. I listened to Baby Metal's Papaya 20 times today. Sam Beer. Tori Hirsch is also here. That's the intro. What are we talking about today, my
Welcome to the
dude? Welcome to
podcast for
the podcast. I listen
not.
to, uh, Japanese pop metal too
It's good. It's
often.
not bad.
Who
It's
is it?
not horrible.
What is it?
A papaya that you sent me. It was really good.
Papaya is a banger.
All right, today we're talking about world building. Um, and we're doing this because I think it's neat, but also because you've been doing a lot of it. So I thought that you could talk about it
A
for us
lot of
today.
bullshit.
Yep.
That's all it is.
I guess.
Podcast over.
No. Can you imagine? Thanks for tuning in this week.
Hey, yo, thanks
Total
for
of
coming out.
58 seconds of content.
Thanks for coming
Thank
out
you all.
today.
um, what was my question on world building? I now wonder. Oh, okay. My question was, I think that a lot of people get
I think that.
I think that a lot of people get really intimidated when they get into world building because it's so much that you have to think about and plan and do and just bake up. And it's a lot of work, and I was wondering how you start that and how you kind of um just go off of what you have and keep growing and growing without like losing your momentum.
You
That was my question.
do lose your momentum. That's the whole fucking point. You know
The
what I mean?
point?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what you want. Like, there's no easy answer here. You know what I mean? Because, well, to start with, I
Mhm.
am no man. I am autistic,
Mhm.
which means we enter the magical world of hyperfixation.
But also yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Go on, go on.
So, you have to, not to say, like, I'm not a psychologist. I don't fucking know. But not to say like neurotypicals don't also hyperfixate. Like they get into shit.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know, like neurodivergents usually live in a little fantasy world like their entire childhoods because they're being traumatized without
That's
welcome to the deep
true.
hours. So I mean it's
Only
just
2 minutes.
three.
Go
Mine's
on.
at three. They have a buffer. Um but it's just like it's taking your interests and putting them into a little world for yourself.
Yeah, that's really nice.
It's not like you have to be like Neil Gaiman, master of writing, or
Yeah, that's true.
work for the Warhammer people and craft like stupendous fucking lore every time.
Mhm.
Really into Warhammer. Tori
Yeah.
Hirsch, not so much, but she does listen to it.
I do listen to it. No, it sounds neat.
But I mean, like, I don't know, if your interests are cool little robot boys,
Yeah.
make some cool little robot boys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And if you struggle to like, you don't have to have any artistic talent. Like if you just want to fucking, you see a cool map in the front of a book and you're 12 years old and you're in your bedroom and it's 2 a.m. I'm painting you a picture
Yeah.
here of my childhood and you're like, that's a sick ass map. I want to make one. Make a map.
Mhm.
It doesn't have
Yeah.
to look like you're a master cartographer. I really hope the mic just picked up my burp. My apologies. You don't have to
I
be
didn't
like
even hear it.
silent, but also not for my mic. Um, but it's like if you want to craft these like meticulous characters, you can.
Yeah.
If you want to make a fantasy story, you can. It doesn't have to be like your world building doesn't have to be like every nation in the world,
Yeah.
all of its
It's true.
governments, the demographics, the races, the money system, even though I'm going to make a money system because I love money systems.
Why do you love money systems?
Bruh! Like, I just fucking burst the audio on that one. I don't know, money is, like, one of the sickest things. I mean, I'm, like, my interests in world building are on two entirely opposite ends of, like, I was gonna compare myself to something, but I don't know what's a middle ground for world building
Yeah.
because I spent a week and a half drawing a map and making Clip Studio paintbrushes for trees and
Mhm.
like tailoring my art program to do what I wanted it to do just
Yeah.
so I could make a map that I don't even like anymore. Like I like it, but it's like what's
Mhm.
missing? Something's missing. I don't know what it is. I think it's the
Yeah.
font. That's how like meticulous I am with my world building. Like I want to make my own font so that my font looks right because my handwriting is fucking atrocious and I can't just handwrite a map.
Yeah.
But
Why did you
there's
choose to start with the map?
I think it's because I've tried world building without a map.
Mhm.
I also just kind of like making maps. I just make maps in college all the time when I don't want to do art
Mhm.
school work.
Yeah.
Um, but more of my interests are also in like outside of world building. My interests are in like Ghost Art School is interested in outer space, like actual science that happens out there.
Yeah.
Like, how does a planet do what a planet do? You know what I mean? I'm not
Yeah.
into like weather systems and shit like that, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make like tidal maps, but I
Mhm.
want to know where my land masses are and where, like, just in case, like where the ocean like drops off into like the deeper parts or the shallower parts or if there's coral reefs or
Mhm.
a pine forest on a mountainside.
Mhm.
But it's also like if you're based in like if your end goal is writing a book,
Mhm.
I think there's more merit in I don't know if merit's the right word. I think there's more importance based in how like if your world building is centered around your characters, where do your characters come from?
Mhm.
Is it a dead country? Is it a still alive country? Have the
Yeah.
borders changed? Are they like an immortal vampire that's pissed that like Hungary isn't Hungary anymore, like where it used to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah. My dad was just yelling about that. That's so funny that you said that. That's such a random, so weird occurrence of events. I'm so sorry.
But like, see, like that's a thing
Yeah, no, I get what you. That's a perfect example.
that's
Yeah, that's
somehow
great.
a perfect example of like what do you want, how deep are you willing to go? And
Yeah.
as someone picks up my can, doesn't take a sip from it, puts it back down, as someone who my original goal was to write a graphic novel.
Mhm.
Jesus Christ. Um,
What's happening over there?
well, I was just remembering that I was gonna write a graphic novel.
Oh.
um, wrote it. I did the first rough, did the second rough, did the third rough.
Mhm.
Started scripting. You dealt with a
Mhm.
lot of it
It was
somehow.
great. Dealt.
I mean, I enjoy where it is now, but then
Yeah.
something vibed wrong with it, which I mean
Mhm.
could be said for anyone making anything.
Yeah. That's true.
The painting vibes wrong, or the use of words vibes wrong, or the names are wrong, or something.
Mhm. How
But
do you know?
how do I know what?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, speak your truth.
How do you know once you've started world building if you're taking it far enough? like if you just want to focus on one little part of it, but let's say that you are writing a book or you do want this to go somewhere or expand a little bit. How do you know that like if you were making a title map and you were thinking about the weather, um how do you know that that wouldn't be something important that you would need? And I understand that's like, well, does it affect the story or affect anything that's happening?
Yeah.
But how do you know if you've like gone too far and this is ridiculous, or how do you know if you haven't gone far enough?
Well, I mean, just to bounce off of the use of weather,
Yeah.
um, two BioWare games that I've played recently, that you know I've played recently, that are all I talk about recently.
Mhm.
Mass Effect Andromeda. People love to hate it. And Inquisition, Dragon Age Inquisition. There's a
Yeah.
prominent, like, second or third map you get to in Inquisition, depending on how you play, is the Storm Coast. It's always raining there. Sucks ass. I hate it there.
Mhm.
But it's literally called the Storm Coast because weather patterns make it so that the weather slams into the mountains. And it's
Yeah.
always raining and it's on the sea. But
That's a really good
that's
example.
not like. But the weather there isn't based in story, it's based in
Yeah.
burps again. I really shouldn't be drinking fucking root beer when I'm doing this. But
Should.
alternatively, I'll switch to the water. Alternatively, alternatively to a non-story based.
Mhm.
So Storm Coast is non-story based. Like you have to go there. Like the Storm Coast is in the story, but it's not like you must solve the weather patterns to make the Storm Coast dry. Like it's not like
Yeah.
that's not the story.
Yeah, I get that.
But weather patterns that are the story are Mass Effect Andromeda. You have to make 5 planets viable. The first
Mhm.
planet you get to is in a giant lightning storm.
Yeah.
The one of the planets doesn't have any natural water, which doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't have any natural water, but people settle there, and then there's a way to make the sulfuric water into like drinking water. Which I'm not a scientist. I don't. I almost failed chemistry in high school. Like I don't. I'm not gonna
Me too.
jive on the fucking chemistry here, but
Mhm.
your task is to open up the vault and solve the vault puzzle, which I use the internet for because I'm not smart. And then I move on with my life, and the planet hits 100% viability, and I'm like, wahoo! And then I go kill an alien. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But it's like, is I guess the purpose of the examples is, do you just want a place to have a cool ass name like the Storm Coast,
Mhm.
or do you want is it like plot based? Like, is there something else happening
Yeah.
going on in the story where like your space ranger has to take his pals to the puzzle room?
Yeah. And I like that you use those two examples because it also shows that it doesn't necessarily need to be plot based. It can just be something that you're like, oh, this would be cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole like. I think that's why I liked drawing a map because it's just like what what's the this area looks a little empty. What should I put in here that looks cool? Oh, a giant
Mhm.
fucking canyon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a city in it for no fucking reason. Who's gonna stop me?
Mhm.
Nobody. Except for myself when I hate it in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that is true. That's a
What's
good
above the
point of
canyon? A big ass lake. Does it flood the canyon? Sometimes. Who's gonna stop me? Nobody!
What? That's such a good point though, and you said this in the very beginning too. But if you don't like what you're doing, stop and make a world or make something that you really
God.
enjoy. Because it is, I mean, not only is it a ton of time that you're spending on it, like, I don't know why someone would do that if they didn't enjoy what they were making,
And it
but
shouldn't be. It's like when if you are just writing a book
mhm,
and you're like, yeah, but I also work a 9 to 5, or I have 32 children and 18 husbands. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry to this man, first off, but also, like, it's your hobby, it's not your job. If you're. If the pandemic has taught me, a person with autism, anything,
mm,
is you gotta fucking stop sometimes.
yeah,
Even if you're feeling that high of getting your perfect like word count in for the day for like the past three
mhm,
days, or you worked on a character sheet and you finally got the face right or whatever.
yeah,
If you work a 9 to 5 and then you cook for your family and then you
mhm.
take your dog on 13 jogs around the block because he's full of energy and you bought a herding dog when you live in the city for some reason.
It's quite the illustration that you're painting, go on. This is really specific.
I just think people that buy big dogs and they live in the city and they're not ready for the responsibility, but they're like, this dog will sleep all day, are stupid. Offense to
Yeah,
this
that's
man.
true. You know what we didn't expect? Oh, this is so off topic. We'll get back to it, I promise. But you know what I didn't expect whenever we got a teeny little dog?
The
Is we were under
poopinator.
the impression, yes, we were under the impression that you would have to like run her around a ton because everyone else that we
Your
knew
dog?
in our family, yeah, well, everyone else had big dogs and they were constantly taking them like out sprinting or something. We were like, oh, maybe our dog needs this. So when she was younger, we used to take her like to the park and let her run around. But she's so small, and every step that we take is like 40 that she takes. So one day at the vet, the veterinarian was like, "You don't have to be doing this with her." She was like, especially when she gets older, if you just like toss a toy to her every now and again, that's totally fine. And just didn't realize that there were some dogs that genuinely didn't need that much. But
Your
yeah, no,
dog,
I
your
agree.
dog needs food like 15 times a day because she's unhappy. She just likes to eat. That's what the Pookinator needs. The
Yeah,
immortal dog, Pookinator,
immortal dog.
will live forever.
How old is she now? 15,
She was getting
I
kind
think.
of iffy there when she got her teeth out, but dear God,
After she got him out, the vet was like, "Oh, she's gonna feel so much better," and she does.
she's going to live forever, is what the vet said to
Mhm.
your mother.
Yep.
Strongest rat in the world. Anyway, I don't remember what I was fucking talking about.
I'm sorry. It was you were talking about for some
I got
reason you
too
were
into
talking
my.
about
I got too
people and
thought
yeah, you got
too into it. I
you're
got too
lying.
into it. I got too into it.
You were talking about people who lived in a city and had
Oh,
big
oh,
dogs.
oh, oh, oh.
Yeah.
People, I think when people take on a project, a creative project, they're like, creative endeavors mean nothing. Creative endeavors are for poor people and lesbians. You know what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Like it's just it's like maybe I am full of shit because I went to art school, but if you're gonna do a creative, if you're gonna take on a creative endeavor, it's like the same shit as working out every day.
Yeah,
As
it's
someone who
true.
works out every day
Mhm.
and refuses to get an office job because I will kill myself, it's the
Go on.
same shit as a creative endeavor, especially when it's a long term project. Sure,
Yeah.
any man, woman, or child, they, thems, or other, can doodle for an hour a day, a half an hour a day, on a sticky
Yeah.
note at work when they're on a call.
Mhm.
If you're out here to make, like, a thing that you want people to see,
Yeah.
your shit can't be the culmination of a burnout.
Yeah.
Especially if you enjoy it. Your hobby shouldn't become a chore. I mean,
No.
sometimes they should, because sometimes you have to do the shitty shit, but
Yeah, I guess.
you can't, like, when you have to go back through and reread your own writing.
Mhm.
That shit sucks.
Yeah.
So for some people it doesn't. For some people it doesn't. But it's a process, and people will just go into like writing a book, and they get stuck on like chapter 3 because they didn't do an outline, because they didn't do the rough before that, because they didn't figure out who their characters were.
Yeah. That's
And
true.
then they're
That's I
like, why does my writing suck? Because you
Mhm.
haven't read a book since you were like 13, Sandra.
Yeah. I think that I think that a lot of people pick up hobbies that they
just
don't really intend to
just to
enjoy, but
put it
just
out there,
like
I also haven't like read a book since I was like 13,
no,
Sandra.
that's fair. Have any of us?
True. I
Truly.
tried. I got halfway through a book.
I tried.
I tried. You've had a book. I lent you a book meant for
Oh my god, please
teens
don't.
3 years ago that you read like four
I read
chapters of.
like half of it.
Mm,
Yeah, I got through half of it.
anyway,
Anyways, yeah, I think that a lot of people will just pick up a hobby to be good at something, and then like all of a sudden when they're not instantly good at it, they're like, why am I doing this? You know
well,
what I mean?
that's the science of failing,
Yeah, yeah.
which is a
But I think
whole
that's
nother thing that I'm very
what you're
into talking
saying.
about. So we shouldn't really get into that.
Well,
I
how long do you want this episode to be? We can get into
4 hours.
it. 4 hours long.
YouTube exclusive, episode 4. We have 4 total listeners. Um, I mean, the science of failing is something that people people should look into for themselves, because especially in, I don't know how, I'm American. I don't know how other countries work. I know
Mhm.
sometimes in Canada you have bagged milk and that is it, and it's very expensive, I think. That is all I know about other countries. I tried to learn Korean and I just like the food.
Clearly very worldly people. Go on.
We live in Western Pennsylvania. This is as good as it gets sometimes. But I know in America, failing is such a fucked up thing for people to look at,
It's true. Mhm.
because it's just like, it's the fear of learning compiled. Why? What's the word I'm
Combined.
looking for? I'm making a hand movement and it doesn't make any sense because it's just two C's connecting like a chain link
Is it
fence.
combined?
Yes.
Okay.
God, the brain. This is miraculous. Keeps me alive. Can't think of a word. The fear of failing and the fear of learning are
Mhm.
so comparatively the same thing that
Mhm.
combined they make a person doomed to repeat the same things forever.
Yeah, it prevents any person from growing at all.
And I think, well, my entire life in college and art school
Mhm.
was the fear of failing,
Mhm.
but not the fear of learning, because I wanted to learn, but the
Yeah.
fear of failing
Mhm.
just totally erased the motivation.
Mhm.
And when you sit in front of a computer for 16 hours a day for 3 days a week or 4 days or whatever the fuck I was doing,
Yeah.
crazy shit,
Mhm.
and the teachers intimidate the shit out of you because they like actively bully students, it
Mhm.
instills a fear of learning that you think is just a fear of failing.
Mhm.
And then you learn video editing and you hate your life for instead of being
Turned into something else.
instead of being an illustrator, you turn into a video editor, and now you want to fist fight God. That's the fear of failing. But to circle that back to world building,
Okay.
I am 2 years out of college and I miss being creative. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I had to relearn how to draw anatomy and relearn like back. I'm still learning all of it, but I used to be really, really good at like background illustrations, and
Mhm.
my main goal in life was to be like working the movies and doing the concept arts.
Yeah.
Never would I do that now as a person. I'm not gonna say never. Sometimes it might be cool in the future, but oh my god.
Yeah.
But it's just like I'm 23 and
Mhm.
I was like set in this doom spiral that I was gonna be a video editor and work in advertising for the rest of my life. And if that
Yeah.
is your dream job, do it. I want to
Yeah.
write like 80 books or
Yeah.
draw 80 books. But there's a fear, the fear of failing is there, and the fear of learning comes from the fear of
Mhm.
failing. And I think overcoming that as someone who lives with my parent still at 23 because we're in a pandemic and I went to art school is not great. Like it's you have to overcome your parents and yourself and those around you
Mhm.
depending on who you surround yourself with. So I mean, if you truly want to write a book or draw a book or a comic or work as an illustrator or whatever, and you want to
Mhm.
just make shit from your own little world, it can start
Yeah.
as you can start as to round it out, to round back to the first question 26 minutes later.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
It can start with a character and go from there. It can start with I think it would be really cool to have like a little island nation where some weird shit happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you have to think about your favorite movies. Don't put it in perspective with like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. Do not
Mhm.
be like, I want a world build, and then your basis is an intergalactic federation set on becoming friends with a bunch of aliens, and they have a sick spaceship. You know, like
Mhm.
you have to put it into perspective. If you think that your world shouldn't be no bigger than like a lighthouse, and you want a little lighthouse keeper that goes about his or her life doing what they do,
Mhm.
do it. If at some point you're like if you have where they are at the beginning and where they are at the end, and you need something interesting for the middle, build out a city, build out a town.
Mhm.
And if you're like, well, where is this town getting its food from? And that's something that's genuinely important to the story or to you, start building a map.
Yeah.
Is it a little island inside of a big ass lake, inside of a big ass country? Like, what's the island story?
Mhm.
They ain't growing fucking corn on this island. It's a tropical island with a lighthouse. Where are they getting their grub? And for me, it was I spew like thousands of like bullshitty not even half-hearted, like, I think I want to make an alien species. Oh, and you're like, whoa! And you make a little R2D2 sound because that's who you are as a person. And you're
Mhm.
like, tell me more. And I'm like, I can't.
Mhm.
But because I know who I am, if I don't put that down on a piece of paper, I have notebooks full of ideas because sometimes I can't think when I'm typing.
Mhm.
If you can't think when you type, get a notebook.
Yeah.
Write down little bullet points in your notebook and then circle back to a computer, set a time for yourself, and write down your shit in a Word
Mhm.
doc or something so it's easy to find.
Yeah.
Invest in sticky notes if you do a notebook. It's very helpful.
Mhm. That's true. I love a good sticky note.
I love a good notebook. Ugh, God.
I stopped myself from getting notebooks because I realized that most of what I was writing down was like things that I could put on a sticky note and then throw away.
Yeah, but do you enjoy? Because I know you like to hoard. I do not hoard. I know you like to
I don't
hoard.
anymore. No, I don't anymore. I only hoard little sentimental things in one box. I have one box of hoarding. That's it.
Such a fucked up, like, has no streamline topic podcast. We should do this more. This is fun.
This
Um,
is fun.
but I mean, like, I'm someone who one of my special interests as a neurodivergent individual is notebooks, is collecting notebooks. But
Mhm.
I stopped myself because I am not made of money. I went to art school and I cannot get a job. And two, when I do buy notebooks, I buy them in bulk. Why? Who does that? Me. But it's great to fucking keep them and look back. As someone who's not sentimental,
This sounds pretty sentimental.
yeah,
Keep
as someone
going.
who isn't sentimental, I like to open a notebook if I know that there's an idea in there from 3 years ago.
Mhm.
But I have no idea what the fucking idea is. Sometimes it's piece of shit. It's like birds with 17 legs. Like,
Yeah.
who am I? Who was
Mhm.
I in 2015?
Yeah.
But you grab that, you open it, you look at it, and you're like, birds with 17 legs. Can I do something
Mhm.
with that? Not right
Yeah.
now. It's 3 in the
Yeah.
morning. I don't know what that means. It's like birds with 17 legs, like zigzag patterns around it. But
Mhm.
the moral of that anecdote is write down your shit, or you're never
Yeah.
gonna write anything
That's true.
or draw
Yeah.
anything.
I
If
like that this
you like that
go
one.
on. I'm sorry. I like that this kind of evolved into just everybody needs a creative project that they enjoy and everyone should be doing
I
something. Whether
think
you can like
I've
I don't
always
know.
said every
Yeah.
person needs a craft.
Yeah, it's true.
If you find yourself lacking in friends because you're bored, like when a dog gets aggressive
Mhm.
because it's like doesn't go for too many walks, the dogs on the comeback, coming back as examples, um, or like when they put raw meat in pumpkins for tigers at zoos.
Mhm.
Everyone
Yeah, it's
needs a
true.
raw
We
meat
need
pumpkin.
enrichment. Yeah.
Enrichment, I guess, is the word. Everyone
Yeah.
should have a hobby, and I think that world building is like the greatest overarching hobby a person can have because it can
That's
literally
true.
be anything. Do you like making maps? Boy,
Mhm.
do I have a project for you.
Yeah.
Your world can be made up of 15 billion islands. Good news. Your world can be made up of all mountains, no fertile ground. Good news. You can do anything you want with a map. You don't even have to
Mhm.
be good at drawing. Good news about drawing is the more you do it, the more you improve.
Yeah.
But then that touches back with the fear of failure and the fear of learning. People, and Americans specifically, I know this, do not like learning in front of others,
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
which I think is rooted back to doing math with your dad at the kitchen table.
That's such a specific example that I hear all the time, and I love it because it's like, why is that relevant to every single child?
Did you not cry when your engineer father tried to teach you what?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Everybody did. Yeah. Oh
Except for
my
like that
god.
one smart kid in every class, every math class, that was just like, good for you, dude. But I don't remember how to do fucking algebra,
Yeah.
you know? But I don't know. It's like you do not have to know the chemical compound for any poison. You can just write cool ass poison on the title of your Word document and put it in a folder labeled cool shit for my world.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to be such like a serious thing.
Yeah. I think that's where I get stuck a lot is that I want to go in and make it like nice and perfect and everything makes sense. And I just think that me and so many other people don't just play with stuff anymore. when that's all this is just playing, but it's
And I mean, I've tried to world build my different little dimensions multiple times over the course of the years, and
yeah.
it wasn't hitting until
No.
like something in my brain clicks, and it's like, well, if you just want a cool god that like fucks with everyone,
Mhm.
make that. You can name him Frank. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Frank the fuck ass.
Mhm.
And he's a trickster god. I'm making a new god as we speak. He's 19 feet tall and he has 16 arms, no eyes. He has the world's longest beard. You can find him in a cave. He lives with trolls.
Oh god.
Literal trolls. Trolls don't even exist
Mhm.
in this world. Or do they? You know, it's just like I think I I think a good tip, if you're willing to take this plunge, for anyone who just wants to put words on a piece of paper and then figure it out later, stay
Mhm.
up until 3 in the morning and then drink caffeine.
Yeah.
Your brain will do whatever the fuck it wants.
Mhm.
And if you have story events, this is why people do rough drafts of books.
Mhm.
If you have a story, if you have events in a story, but you're missing like one or two pieces somewhere, and you're like, well, how the fuck did they get from here to here?
Yeah.
Step away from it, or work on like a side project. This is why I think world building is like the best thing ever. When you have like a planet or two or whatever.
Mhm.
If because when I was writing my pirate story, and then I all of a
Mhm.
sudden hated it with a burning passion, and I couldn't figure out what the characters look like, and I still cannot.
Mhm.
That's why I stopped with it, because I got fucking annoyed. I went back and I was like, how do I want the world to end up? Because I knew that the world in my heart of hearts was not based in piracy and no technology. Because I love robots.
Mhm.
And that is why it wouldn't be based in piracy. So I made a
Yeah.
timeline of, well, how did. Because at some point, it has to make sense, but it doesn't.
It's true.
It doesn't always have to make sense. Specifically, if you call it whatever genre you want. If it's fantasy, it doesn't have to be high fantasy. It doesn't have to be Tolkien's Pride and Joy.
Mhm.
You know, like it doesn't. You don't have
Yeah.
to be like the elves come. No, just do what you want. Your magic
Mhm.
system does not have to be so densely built that you
Mhm.
can't cast a spell with it. If you have to put more thought into, I want to make a firebolt, but how do I do it? No. If it's not like, go read a scroll, go get a book, or just do it, and you're not into branching off from going more in depth than that,
Mhm.
why do it? You don't have to build a high fantasy world to have fantasy.
Yeah.
It's just like, get it. Like, I
Yeah.
went into Fate Lines and I was like, my pirate story will have a god and the ocean and one boat. And I went, three boats. And I went, none of this makes sense. So then I went
Mhm.
back and I made the timeline, figured out, like, the way my brain works is I wanted specific years. So I made specific years because I want to make it like a Wikipedia fucking bullshit
Mhm.
crazy mess.
Yeah.
So I put dates on my timeline and I would label specific to the story with the story's like name or an anagram or some shit. And then I would say like specifically this character, something happens to this character here, and then I would make a little Wikipedia article about that
Mhm.
character. Or if it's a big event, I would make a little Wikipedia article about that event.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like you don't have to go into world building with I want 13 species. That's it. How?
Mhm. Yeah.
What qualifies your species? Are there subspecies? Like, do what you want. It doesn't have to be like you don't have to base your entire world around Dungeons and Dragons.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be well. There's elves, and then there's drow, and then there's like why?
Yeah.
Do you want that? Does it matter for your world building? Does it matter for your story?
Mhm.
Like, it can you can do what like literally whatever you want.
Yeah. I think that's a good note to end this on. Unless you want to keep going.
No,
Um, okay, we've hit 41 and I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, do what you want. Follow Sam's advice. Follow your
episode
heart.
4, kill the game.
Yeah, that's it.
Do what you gotta do. I believe in speaking your truth, and if your truth comes from making 13 races of just elves, go for it.
Mhm.
Are you doing an ending, or
Yeah, sure. Um, thanks for listening along. We know this episode was a little bit more candid, but we wanted to mess around and see if this was more fun to do. I know that we covered a lot of topics,
sorry?
but it had a really great message.
I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, do what you love and make it count and make sure that you're happy while you're doing it.